seagulls follow the trawl, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares, mate, honestly.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. I've never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
It's the Monday Club on a Tuesday again. We know. I'll take the flak this time. It was my fucking fault, right? I was the one dying. Sunday sesh with Steve-O and the rest. I mean, yeah, I ended up till about 3 a.m, Jonathan. Just posting pish on fucking Facebook, Twitter, the lot. Can't help myself, mate. And yeah, I was quite productive yesterday. And then, like, honestly, I was just bussed by like 6 at night. I went, no way, I'm not driving that bus tonight. I'm a mess. I'm a shambles. So apologies for no show last night, but we're back tonight. Who cares? Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares. Jonathan, oh dear, it was another good weekend being a Celtic fan. There's more transfer gossip. There's ins. There's outs. I'm going to be looking at transfer windows again because I ain't backing down. I'm doubling down on that summer window. But firstly, any thoughts for us this Tuesday evening?
Well, transfers are a key thing to take away, Russell. We are right in the midst of the January transfer window. We said bye-bye, Josip, as Steve Clark would say just the other day there. We look like we could be saying bye-bye to Georgios Giakoumakis. It looks as if we might get the Korean striker in the building. There's also talk of Kevin Nisbet, potentially a £1 million deal this evening breaking. And on top of all that, we've got Moritz Jens looking like he's going back where he came from and that loan deal being terminated. But the one deal, Russell, over the past week, the one deal that nobody has been talking about is this excellent loan signing that Celtic have made. And that has been the loan deal to get VAR on side at Celtic Park over the last couple of games. We've actually benefited from a few decisions. And I tell you what, I think that's all down to Peter Lawwell being back in the building. I'm telling you, you remember he used to be seen as the unseen Fenian hand, Peter Lawwell, and now he's back. He's pulling the strings again, and he's managed to get us a loan deal on the VAR system, and it's been much appreciated. And as much as we've not had great decisions go for us so far this season, perhaps the tide is beginning to turn.
Brilliant work, Jonathan. And DS 1888 with an absolute peach. Shut your eyes and it could be Jim White.
Does he the
Oh,
yellow tie?
oh, brilliant. I mean, you've said Peter Lawwell, you've triggered the likes of David Kelly, Monty already. Loyal out. Oh, not tonight, guys. We're not going down that road, are we? Are we? Oh, we might. We might. Paul Dyer says he loves Jonathan's impression of a 10-year-old pretending to be a commentator.
That's exactly what it is. All those years practice. All those years practice, Paul.
That is a good point. That is good patter. Very, very good. But yes, we will get stuck in. Thank you for another brilliant opening, Jonathan. You tee up the show so well, mate. We appreciate it on the bus. Hope everyone's good in the comments. We'll do all that good stuff. So if you've not hit subscribe yet, I think we're just about to hit the 3.3 thousand number, Jonathan, either tonight or tomorrow, something like that. We don't take it for granted, but it is completely free to hit subscribe, so I can hit it anyway. If you want to like the show, that gets us all that traction on YouTube and all that carry on. If you want to become a Boyce Bus member, well, a few of you have. Brown Warrior, Gary Brown, Scott Howe, Kevin 14, Joseph McGonigal. Just a few to mention there. Paul Dyer, straight off the top of my head, Jonathan, all have became Boyce Bus members. And yes, we are looking forward to obviously continuing in 2023, Jonathan, just providing you the most informed, sophisticated Celtic debate out there. That's what we really strive to do on the bus. But yes, Jonathan, there were some interesting topics you brought up there, and we are going to discuss them because, well, Moritz Jens looks to be the latest name to depart. He was signed on a 12-month loan deal with the option to buy, which I think is quite interesting because that would instantly suggest, option to buy there. They were quite hopeful that he was going to be made a permanent signing. I think they were quite confident he could be, but maybe just hedged their bets a wee bit with the option to buy. Now, I was on record at the time saying the use of the option to buy with Jota, the Cameron Carter Vickers, got to be honest and say that was a success. So I'm more open to this. Within 6 months, he's gone. And that window leaves more question marks now than answers to me. I very much think that the January windows have been far more compelling. I think when you look at the summer one, though, the thing that I suppose I'm slightly frustrated with is that was a window going into a Champions League campaign for the first time in 4 years. It was obviously with group stage football guaranteed for the first time in 14 years. And did we really strengthen for that competition? Now, people say, we couldn't get his guy there. And I had plenty of ding-dongs on Twitter today, which is all good. I like everyone's point. Everyone seems relatively calm about it. And no, he served a purpose. And I suppose if that's what you think. I mean, he was the only one, I suppose, after all, that arrived in that window, Jonathan. It started all the Champions League games. I think you could count up to less than, 100 minutes for the rest combined. Maybe Haksabanovic just takes it over that. He got half, didn't he?
He got a wee bit towards the end, didn't he? But I think he was finding fitness to begin with, or so the story goes.
No,
anyway,
a lot of them were. But I just think that window, when we look at it, I think when we've got the period of time that we had this summer, which was a good run at the window without any stresses, without any headaches of playoffs and all that, no obstacles. We knew what our path was laid out to be. And already there's sort of more high-profile signings like Jens out the door by January. I don't think it's been as good a month as is made out. As good a summer window, has been made out at the time.
No, I think when you're looking at summer, I think you've got to look at it and see if you're trying to get yourselves into positions where you're going to make inroads in the Champions League. The players that have came in, Jens aside, none of them really featured heavily in the competition, and you've got to be looking at that and thinking there's question marks there as to why we weren't looking at more types of players that were going to be ready to come straight into play in the Champions League football, because you've got to be improving your first team. Now, I know you could argue that the team did need a bit of strengthening in terms of squad depth, and you could maybe make an argument for a couple of them. Particularly, for example, Aaron Moy, I think, finally came onto a game now, and I think there's a few others there that could potentially end up becoming good players for us, but we didn't really have anyone that came in in that window who made an instant impact for me. That's given us that opportunity to really showcase how good we could be in the Champions League this year. And I kind of consider that a bit of a missed opportunity by Celtic. And, you know, it's a bit unfortunate because I think in some ways we'd almost benefit by having the Champions League group stages played in February because we do a far better job actually preparing in January.
Let's petition UEFA right now. We want the competition to begin in February.
Yeah, I think that would be a better situation for us, really, in general, to be fair with you. I don't know what it is all about. I don't know if it's just the fact we've got a League Cup final coming up against them. They're like, oh, fuck, we better actually sign some players here and get rid of some dead wood. You know, but you've got to be looking at these European games and thinking, oh, come on, there's opportunities here. Why aren't we actually making some, you know, money, you know, prestige? There's so many different things, a chance for the club to grow. I mean, it ticks all the boxes, you know, from the boardroom right down to the players. It makes absolute sense to be trying to give yourself the best possible chance at progressing in the Champions League. And I'll take Callum's point. He's mentioned that Jens did all right in the Champions League. And, you know, to be fair, I didn't think he was terrible, Callum. I would agree with you there. No. I didn't think he was terrible. But at the same time, he probably wasn't somebody who set the heather alight either. I would come back.
Well, he obviously didn't impress enough. That's the thing. I agree with Callum as well. I never thought, you know, he's a total red flag in the Champions League or anything. But we've got to be honest, Jonathan, and say, well, Ange obviously didn't make much of it all because within 6 months he's went, nah, I've made my mind up. And I don't mind that ruthless attitude, by the way. But the bone of contention for me with the summer window, and by the way, we all fell in the trap a wee bit. Remember, there was the talk of, has this been the best transfer window in Celtic's history? I think that was quite across the old Celtic social media and podcast sort of world. I think that was getting spoke about a lot. I think hindsight is a wonderful thing, of course, but I think Abelgard will follow Jens this month. I think he'll be gone this month. So that'd be true. Aaron Moy didn't kick a ball till after the World Cup. I don't know what he played 15 minutes in the Champions League. You've got Hacksaw, who started one game, was hooked at half time, albeit I thought he was doing pretty well. I think that was more fitness related. And then I think he made maybe one other appearance. Who else is impacted in the Champions League after the longest window ahead of a Champions League campaign? The bank balance stays the same. Now, people might think you're being awfully negative here and it's all part of the process. I thought that summer window would have been a more, you know, important part of the process than what we're now giving it credit for. And I just think sometimes you need to open your eyes a wee bit and say, that window, Bernabei, that was the other one. I don't think he played any minutes in the Champions League.
No, he was still getting his parking tickets and all that sort of stuff from his time off the road. Yeah.
That's right. So I do think there was a wee bit of debate to be had about, you know, now that we've, and maybe at the time you want to give them all the benefit of the doubt. Not even that there was, I'm not saying the benefit of the doubt in a bad way. I just mean you're quite open that, well, it looks like on paper we've strengthened the team. Some of these come with international you know, tags on them, Jonathan. So, you know, you think, okay. But let's be honest here. That summer window didn't impact anywhere near positively enough in our Champions League campaign. I don't think, considering the run we had at that summer period and the money being, okay, whilst maybe not banked as of yet from the Champions League, we knew was in the post. I just wonder when I look at that. And then, obviously, we've got this window and it started with a bang. But now when you are seeing the exits, it's I think this is the agility he was talking about. And I just wonder if he was also hinting at the fact that maybe he wasn't all that happy either with the dealings he'd done in the summer. I've got a feeling even he'd worked out by the time that AGM came and he made that comment. That was late November. So I wonder if he was looking at that now with the group campaign being done and dusted and the 2 points and going, okay, with hindsight, I need to be more agile here. I can't just stockpile the positions and stuff. We're going to need to be, if he ain't up to it, he's got to go. And that's maybe what's happened in the case of Jens. As we know, I think when he was talking, and potentially Giakoumakis as well, but I definitely think he was referring to Juranovic because of the love that he had, you know, all the dewy eyes out there, Jonathan. And I think that he was who he was referring to when he said, you know, don't get too close to your heroes. So there's a wee bit of insight from there from Ange, and it looked like that was getting put into practice, to be fair, at the beginning of this month, with the 3 signings happening right at the top of the month. Kobayashi comes in. Now, of course, Jonathan, to play devil's advocate with you, if Kobayashi was always the guy that Ange wanted for that, then I find it remarkable, because that would mean we're foregoing then, the best possible team we can have in a Champions League campaign for Kobayashi. Maybe that is the truth. I doubt it. I think that's not maybe quite true. And a lot of people, I think Mark's came in, David Kelly's there as well. If you stand still in football, you move backwards. That's been our problem. I definitely think we could be now. We need to be more ruthless. Terry was saying it last summer often enough. All he wanted was guys that could come in and they were first team ready. That doesn't necessarily mean they walk in the first team, but it means they are proper driving competition for the first team. I don't think enough of our signings in that summer window have done that in the first half of this season.
No, I'd agree. I don't think there's been enough progress really made there. I think, you're looking at it now, and as I'd say, you'd probably turn and say Haksabanovic and Moy are really two that are now chomping at the bit, and you were looking at key games coming up in the second half of the season that they could very well feature in and do a turn for us. However, neither of them were up to scratch by the time the most important European games came around for us, and there was a missed opportunity there not to have done that. And even going back to the Jens part of it, the fact that Jens played so many minutes in that Champions League group campaign was because Carl Starfelt was injured, potentially, because it looks as if Carl Starfelt was always the next in line behind Carter Vickers to always be partnering with Carter Vickers when he's fit, because it didn't take long after Starfelt got his fitness back for him to come straight back into the team. So you could have been looking at none of the actual summer signings starting very many of those games whatsoever if Starfelt hadn't got injured. So you have to be looking at that and thinking, Christ, there was an opportunity there and Celtic never really capitalised on it. I don't know if it comes back down to the fact, Russell, though, that perhaps January is easier in terms of going into the markets that Ange likes to go into and has an eye for a player in the Asian markets with the timing of their seasons. I don't know if that perhaps factors into it. And it's just maybe, it's almost like flipping it, because usually it's the other way around. Like, in Europe, it'd be a case that you normally find it's easier to get your deals done in the summer. I don't know if it's maybe in Asia, it's more of a case that the deals are actually easier to do in January, because you have to imagine he identified guys like Kobayashi well in advance of actually signing them. And it does.
But that's almost like as well. But that's also as well, though, going, if it's that one dimensional and that is where he thinks the best bang for buck is, fair enough. I get that. But we also need to go horses for courses here and go, as you said, unless the Champions League's moving to February, that ain't ideal for us to progress, because the biggest platform for us to progress as a club on is going to be the Champions League. So the window right before that needs to be, I think, just as compelling a window as what I do think the 2 January ones will prove to be. I think once the 31st door shuts and we've got the new striker in, hopefully 2, you never know, and we've got the players out that we needed to, and then you add in the Alistair Johnston factor, we start seeing a wee bit more of Avata, and Kobayashi's now started the last couple of games, looks pretty assured. Then maybe we could look at this as being another good January window. But that being said, that doesn't mean we then just, as I think people are worried about in the comments, that doesn't mean you stand still then come the summer. Agile means then you're then looking ahead to that next window where you've got more of the opportunity to go, right, who's good but not going to make that next level? Because I might just sell you as well. And I might just look at strengthening that position. And again, that might involve, if the Asian market, Jonathan's only going to be open in January, then that might involve having to open your wallet a wee bit wider and getting better quality. Because one of the comments I've read as well, and I apologise, I'm not reading out your name because I can't find it now, but they were saying, in Europe, I think it was John Duncan, he was saying, in Europe, maybe our strike rate for signings under Ange hasn't actually been quite as good. And I wonder if that's because we're signing guys for the same valuations from Europe that what we are in Asia, and quite blatantly obvious that it's a far cheaper market to go into the Asian, far better value for money than it would be in Europe. So in that summer window, if you're not going to get much joy out of the J League or the K League, then maybe you're going to need to be a wee bit more bold. And I think that the argument is going to keep growing, and certainly on this bus, that we think with a league title very much in our hands, the destination of that trophy this year, to say the least. I think there is again an argument to go, well, what's stopping us? What are the ceilings that are behind the doors at Celtic right now that we don't know about? Is there a wage cap? Is there a transfer fee cap? Things like that have all been implemented. Just got to ask these questions. There's nothing wrong with that. Because what I don't want to happen is, and I was getting this vibe, if I'm honest, on Twitter the day from people, was that maybe the attitude almost now is the Champions League is like the pain of getting 2 points in that wasn't all that bad and it wasn't all that big a disappointment, because what obviously always masquerades everything, Jonathan, is points on the pitch, and we're getting loads of them right now. We're into the domestic cup final, we're through in the Scottish Cup, and we're 9 points clear in the league, and that can almost like muddy the waters of what the bigger picture is, because the bigger picture to me will be success at Europe's premier competition.
I think it sometimes comes back to the fact that we've been so lacking in those competitions now that we're almost just settling now for being successful domestically. It's how I always kind of feel it comes back to, and I think that's almost shown at club level, but even amongst some of the fans sometimes as well. And we sometimes have a bit too much of a defeatist attitude, and we almost see the Champions League as a Brucey bonus rather than thinking we can actually compete in this competition. And it's almost as if winning the league and winning the cups becomes more of a priority than progress in Europe. But for me, Europe should be right up there behind your league for me. Anyway, we've won the cups plenty of times. I would probably sacrifice quite happily one of the cups for a sustained run in a European competition, because it's long overdue for a club like us, and it's quite clear we're just not getting things quite right when we're approaching these types of games. And I think a large part of that is down to how we have approached the summer business. I think when you're looking at the summer windows so far, fair enough. Obviously, last year, Ange has to his first year, he has to try and build a full squad, so you kind of just take what you can get.
Totally. He did bloody well.
And he did do well there, even in Europe. I would say it was mainly a success. If the Conference League didn't exist, we'd have probably said, you know what, he had a tough Europa League group. He's done okay there. I think you're now looking at it this year, and you do kind of think that group was drawn, and you've seen the teams coming out. And I think if you were to wind the clocks back 15 years, even under Gordon Strachan, if we got drawn in a group like that with what I think was probably a worse team under Strachan, if you were to compare Strachan's team to Postecoglou's team now, how many of Strachan's team really get in it, do you think, Russell? Probably not that many, maybe 3 or 4.
Paul Telfer, Mo Kamara.
Paul Telfer, Mo Kamara. Who else was there in that team? Some absolute pish. Kenny Miller.
McManus and Caldwell at the back, getting us into the last 16 of the Champions League.
But it proves it can be done. And you know what the difference is? Back then, if we even had those players, we'd have looked at the thought of, like, a Shakhtar Donetsk or Red Bull Leipzig and thought, we'll take them at home. We'll definitely beat them at home. You know what? No danger. We'll take care of them. Real Madrid maybe not so much, but definitely the other two, we'd be going into them in a wave of confidence. We'd be getting 6 points out of 6 from those 2 home games as a minimum, and then you obviously take the other games as they come. But you're looking at it now with Celtic, and it's almost as if there's that defeatist attitude that getting 2 points in the group. I think 15 years ago I'd have been fucking raging if we'd only got 2 points in a group with that under even Strachan's team. I think I'd been fucking raging.
Look, this is David Kelly's point, Jonathan, so I'll come straight back to you. I'm just going to read this out to you. As a support, we've been beaten down and conditioned to accept failure in Europe. The board have done an excellent job in pulling the wool over fans' eyes. I think that buys into exactly what you're saying. I think it is weird now that, and obviously you've got, as Neil Lennon calls it, the new wave of fans. They not their problem, but they don't know success in Europe. So they do, I think, have been conditioned in their growing up and watching Celtic that it's Everest that you're climbing every single game in Europe, where the reality is it's always been the same sort of challenges. Do you know what I mean? You're not telling me that when we were, beating Barcelona with like Ronaldinho and that isn't as big a goal for Mark Wilson and co as what fucking, do you know what I mean? Like playing against Real Madrid this year is with Modric in the middle. Do you know what I mean? It's still, the gap is still as ridiculously big as what it's always been. It's how you overcome it. And I do still think even then, you go back to that Strachan era, for example, that we're talking about now, there was still some bold signings made in that time. Donati from AC Milan, the most capped Italian under-21 player of all time. Nakamura Venegura Hesselink, I was going to say him from PSV Eindhoven, who was a regular for them. So there definitely is other sides to it as well. So, yeah, I just wonder, with the Gens, when I don't want to go on too much saying that we're being all negative about Europe. Europe was finished 3 months ago. But just keep it fresher in your memories would be all I would implore fans to do, that Champions League campaign. And then always look at the transfer window. This one, and maybe the summer one upcoming, Start, thinking of Champions League alongside that window and think, are we gearing ourselves up for the Champions League or just more domestic success? And then
I think the problem as well with just to come in there, with the
fine.
summer window, as well, you're looking at it and you're thinking, there's a very good possibility that clubs down south will be looking at some of our players as well. So you got to remember, summer window is prime time in Europe. The January window is, generally speaking, pretty quiet in European football. European football's main transfer window is the summer transfer market.
Yep.
And that is when Celtic players will be on other teams' radars. And you could end up potentially losing one of your key players as well at that time that you're perhaps not planning on losing, but a deal could be done there that we're just not expecting. It's just too much money to turn down, for example. We've seen it happen many times over the last 4 or 5 years where the club feel they've had too high an offer, had to get rid of somebody, and then they have to, scramble around looking for a replacement. So I think it's very important that you do take the January window seriously, which we have been doing, but you've also got the planning in place for the summer window. So that, if worst case scenario was we were to lose one of our key players in the summer when one of the other teams come calling, we actually have already prepared because we're thinking about the Champions League. We know we're going to be in it. And then we're actually able to spend more of our time if, that was to happen and we were to be unfortunate and lose somebody like that, we can then reassess and just concentrate on the replacement rather than thinking, fuck, we need to sign like 3 or 4 players, plus we've lost fucking Rio Tati in the middle of the field or something like that.
I think it's a good point. It's a good point, but obviously we're still hopeful of bringing in at least one other. I know I was getting laughed at for suggesting 2 strikers coming in, Jonathan. People scoffing at the notion, which again I don't think's all that healthy. But the Korean player, I think that would definitely be a step in the right direction. I think it would be the sort of siding as well that the fans will want to see. We're all not more intelligent than the emotional football fan that we, when we first started watching the game. And you always love signing a striker. It always piques interest. This lad looks like he's going to be bringing some sort of similar physical attributes as Giakoumakis, just slightly maybe more versatile, can play out wide, has pace, maybe just a wee bit more mobile than what Giakoumakis is. He certainly needs to be able to hit the ground running, though, to replace what, despite Giakoumakis' lack of game time and the frustration that can bring, his goal to minutes ratio is outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully O's hamstring's a bit tighter, than Giakoumakis. Hopefully he's not holding that within about 5 minutes.
I knew you had something lined up there. I knew you had something lined up. I was looking at you smiling when I was talking. I was like, he's going to say something stupid.
You can see the light bulb going up in my head. Yeah, I was I just really am hopeful that he doesn't end up going about being holding his hip or holding his leg within a few minutes of coming on. But I would think with this signing, it's definitely an Ange Postecoglou production of that. There can be no doubt. Perhaps Giakoumakis wasn't an Ange Postecoglou production because it comes back to the fact he needed bodies in that first season, and that might have been somebody that was identified to him. And, on paper, it looked a very good deal. He's done a very good turn for us, Giakoumakis. Nobody really wants him to go from the fan base, but for whatever reason, Ange Postecoglou doesn't fancy him. And if he thinks one of his own players can offer the same or better than what Giakoumakis has done, I think the fans will trust Postecoglou's judgment based on how well he's done going into that market already over the last couple of years. It's a very exciting move. It looks like he'll be quite similar in terms of size. I think he's going to obviously be able to put himself about a bit. I don't think he's going to be one of these guys who's going to come over and be too bothered about the physical side of the game in Scotland, because I think that can sometimes happen, is that players can get bullied. And we it turns out to be a lot more of a fight than some are expecting when they come from overseas. Don't think that's going to be an issue for this guy based on what I'm seen, albeit granted we are just basing this off clips and we could be proven catastrophically wrong in a few weeks' time after watching them. But no, I think I've got fair amount of confidence that this deal will work out based on Postecoglou's previous dealings. And if it's Ange's decision and he doesn't think Giakoumakis is going to work out for him and he's got somebody that he knows already before, then I think we have to trust the manager on this one. And hopefully there is going to be another one coming in, because it goes back again to that summer transfer window, not to keep harping on about it, but I think that was something we identified that was missing, was having the third striker at that time. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to see Celtic look, to progress on there as well and get another one. For me, not someone that's just going to be there to make up the numbers in case, Kyogo and O get injured. but also going to be in there competing for a first team place as well. I think that's vitally important for Celtic.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, you want is it's an it's magic, and not an oh dear, Jonathan, come the end of the season. Connor Rowan comes in. Now, this story has piqued my interest, speaking of that, Jonathan, because Kevin Nisbet, the goalposts have slightly moved to the stories tonight because the fee that they're talking about, Millwall, already been in talks in Nisbet and things like that, has only been sort of said in the papers. Now, we can take that with a pinch of salt, of course, but I don't know. I wonder if, I always wonder with the sources of these stories and what's the reason for it. Do you know what I mean? I always think like, would the fee be getting disclosed by either Hibs or Millwall? I don't know. But maybe if someone's trying to attract interest from more than just Millwall, they have a wee word with a paper or a website and say, hey, he's up there for about £1 million, and that might go, oh, hold on, because I think one of the arguments that we've had on, or debates that we've had about Nisbet, Jonathan, has been he's going to cost a fair chunk of change in terms of Angie's sort of, spending per player right now being relatively low, as we've discussed many a time. And then you would have Nisbet coming in, potentially it'd be like a number 3 striker or whatever, yet he would cost 3 to 4 million, we were sort of speculating, Now, though, with this story there, you start going, well, if he's available for £1 million, £1.5 million, I think that does change it, the optics of signing a Kevin Nisbet a wee bit. And I think that makes me warm to the idea just a wee bit more, because I think that sort of a fee, it's a very, very low risk signing for someone who, we're not saying he would be the example of, like we were just given a minute ago, of coming in and challenging instantly for first team starts and things. But the flip side to that is, I don't think we've got enough layer of competition or backup for up front anyway. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people think we can have 2 strikers at Celtic now. That's fine. I disagree with that, but it's each to their own. I wonder if you can get a Nisbet in for that £1 million bracket, then he's someone that if you're bringing in O, for example, as well, who's going to take time to settle. We've seen with Bernabeu, Jonathan, same age, different continent. It can take time. Of course, we've seen players coming from the J League hitting the ground running, but each player's an individual. We need to remember that. And when you think about a 22-year-old joining from a completely different continent and they don't hit the ground running, I can understand how that could happen. I get that. Do you know what I mean? And just because Hatate, Kyogo, Maeda, hit the ground running, doesn't mean everyone coming from that corner of the world will. But if you had an insurance policy like a Nisbet coming in for the fees that are getting bandied about just now, I don't know. I think between £1 million, £1.5 million, I think he would definitely fill the void in terms of domestic goals between now and the end of the season. And then you would need to sort of have a good look at him in the summer and think, we're quite happy to go with him as a third choice. I just think that fee reducing opens up my mind to that signing a wee bit more than maybe where I was a week ago.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly one that is piquing people's interest. I know, I think it's Terry that's a bit of a fan of Nisbet, certainly not Shankland from what I've heard over the last couple of weeks, but certainly Nisbet, I think Terry is quite keen on and thinks he's a good player. I would agree. I think domestically, I think Nisbet would do a job for us. And, if you're getting him for £1 million, it's £1.5 million, then it's like, it's a punt, but it's a fairly inexpensive punt. It's no different from taking a punt sometimes when you go abroad and you sort of spend that sort of money on, like Wanyama, like we've done in the past. And Nisbet is at least tried and tested in the Scottish League. So you would like to think he would still do a job for us. Considering the amount of service he'd get, he'll be able to score plenty domestically, if you ask me, if he was to be given a run in the team. And then you never know. We've seen, as I said earlier, with Gordon Stratton's team, there's another one from it, Scott McDonald. He ended up proving himself as a poacher in the Scottish Premiership, but then he took that onto the big stage and scored some crucial goals for us, against the likes of Milan and Man United at one point or another as well. So there's no saying, Nisbet couldn't end up becoming that key player, even if people don't think he's quite at that level now. You never know if you've given him 6-7 months of Postecoglou coaching, that it might not bring him to another level on top of that. And it would be a deal that would be more...
The Greg Taylor effect.
Yeah, he's done it with a few of them. Ralston as well definitely came on to a game, even if he's not seen as the number one right back. He's certainly a far better player now than he was before Postecoglou came into the building. So there's definitely potential there with Nisbet. And I think for me, if that was a deal we were looking to do, that is actually one I would rather do in the January window to give Nisbet more time to get up to speed with how we play football, so that he can then, he can do a job for us absolutely domestically in the second half of the season. And then if he can continue to progress his game, it might be that we end up actually with a bargain on our hands and he could end up doing a job for us, in even bigger games the following season. And I think having that extra time being coached would be worth the punt if you're going to be looking at that £1 to £1.5 million. I certainly don't think if we're going to be like 3-4 million for him, I'd then be like, I'm not convinced as to whether or not we should be paying that on him. I think fans would be a bit more divided at that. But for £1 to £1.5 million, Celtic used to do these sort of deals with other clubs quite regularly, and some of them work and some of them don't. But at the end of the day, you're not losing an awful lot of money if it doesn't work out. And, there is potential there with Kevin Nisbet that it could end up being an absolutely inspirational move. And I think it's one that Celtic might well explore on the back of this Millwall sort of offer that's been put in.
Yeah, I just think that there's obviously, for whatever reason, scepticism about how much Celtic would be willing to pay individually for a player right now. And obviously, you only need to look at the volume of players Ange's signed. How many of them are, 5 million plus 2? Do you know what I mean? And you think how many players has he signed? 20? Do you know what I mean? So they all tend to be pretty low value. Nisbet coming in at 3 to 4 million, I'm thinking, wow, that'd be one of his most expensive signings. I don't think that he would go for that. The fee changes things a wee bit and makes it more of a risk. Is it a market that we'll go for? Who knows? No one knows. But I just think with that story, I think we can expect now the next sort of 24, 48 hours to see a recycling a lot of Celtic interest in Nisbet all over again. Because
it's not really a market he really looks at, though, Postecoglou much.
No.
I mean, apart from Seagrass, I think he's not really signed anyone, I don't think, from the other Scottish clubs yet, which is a wee bit unusual because Celtic do tend to go into that market fairly regularly throughout the years and try their arm by bringing in players, even under Brendan. And they did it, brought in guys like Lewis Morgan under Rodgers and tried to raid other Scottish clubs. So it's not as if it's something we haven't done previously, but under Postecoglou, it doesn't seem as if he's not really seen anyone yet that's caught his eye, which maybe says something about the standard of the league, or maybe it's just a case Postecoglou thinks Celtic can do better, but I'm not entirely sure which one it is. But I think, if you can get a guy like Nisbet in who's tried and trusted in the league on a deal about £1 to £1.5 million, then it's worth exploring. The only issue for that with me, Russell, is that we know when we go into negotiations with Hibs quite regularly in the past, fees tend to end up getting pushed up because they don't want to sell to a rival, which is, of course, their responsibility to make sure that they're getting as much money as they possibly can for a player. And naturally, when they're selling to a rival, they're going to want to get even more money because there's potential there for them to come back and bite them a few more times. Do you think it's actually possible for Celtic to get Kevin Nisbet at £1 to £1.5 million? Is that something they would only do perhaps to Millwall? Would they do that for Celtic? Given, we've obviously seen previous examples where they do try an upsell to Celtic.
Yeah, well, there is that argument, but the one thing that, once, the mischief starts working, Jonathan, these fees start getting bandied about and agents start contriving to drive down the fee so his client can get the move to the club he actually wants to join. You just never know. So I wouldn't write it off. Mark Kearney is off to his bed. He says someone has to save the world in the morning. It may as well be me, but he's got an important message at the end. Do not forget, Judgment Day every week will be on the Boyce bus. He reads out 3 questions from the viewers. It's been a massive success so far. So please, after the show, jump on the community page, fire in your question to the judge. We'll get that recorded maybe Wednesday, Thursday time and get it out Friday morning for you all. So, yes, don't forget to do that. One other wee...
His opinions are always worth listening to, Russell.
Oh, yes. Popcorn time, Jonathan. One other thing will be a wee bit self-indulgent right now about the bus, right? Because, and I need the gauge from the viewer here, so let me know in the comments just with a yes. If we were to go down the road, and I was speaking with a designer yesterday for a very decent sports manufacturer who do kits for football clubs, lower level, based down south. If we were to do a Boyce bus, it would be an away kit. I don't want to give too much away about the style of it, But would there be a buy-in? There would be about 40 quid, but it'd be the real deal, the absolute real material. They'd have a beautiful collar, stuff like that. The wee Boyce Bus logo there would have a sponsor as well. I'll keep that under my hat for now. But yeah, just let me know, because if you would be keen on that, I need an idea of numbers to sort of then go back to them with. So just put a wee yes in the comments if you're keen. If not, that's fine. I think they'll be absolutely minted, and you will want them once they start circulating anyway. So
I know how much time you'll have spent into design, Russell. Clothes is probably your second favourite topic after football, right enough. So I'm sure they'll be crackers.
I was on the phone to him for ages discussing ideas yesterday. So it seems like I mean they're really keen to do it. Monty's asking what's the community page. The community page, just go on the YouTube channel, swipe to the right, one of the tabs that will have like videos, live, and then community page is about 4 tabs along, Monty. And you can tap on that. You can put a wee question at the judge. I'll pick it up. But yeah, let us know about the kits, because I think these are going to be minted, right? And we are very much hoping that there'll be a bit of a buy-in for it. And then I can go back and say, right, get the numbers in. And then they would be about 40 quid. Need to be realistic on it. They would be about 40 quid, but these are going to be just, just a wee one-off thing, Jonathan. We'll make them limited edition or something as well. But it'd be class. If I can get the feedback and we get an idea, if we could go 20, 30, that'd be class. I think with the Boyce Bus t-shirts first time round, we actually ended up selling over 70. So I would be hopeful that there would be a bit of a buy-in for them. But aye, these will be cool. Right. Anyway, that was just a wee tuppence worth. A lot of people saying aye and yes. So that's class. Good to know. But aye, well, I've lost my train of thought now, Jonathan. I've completely lost it.
You're already got your visions back on.
I'm just thinking about this kit, man.
You're thinking, what else could I add to this top to make it worth it for all the passengers? You've got a million different ideas going through your head. I can see the brain turning. You're probably thinking, I could do a home top, could do an away top, could do a third kit. I'm sure fourth kit's another thing as well. You could totally come up with so many different ideas on this. Wardrobe full of Boyce Bus t-shirts.
I know, my imagination runs wild, man. Right, okay. Okay, what else were we going to talk about? There was one other talking point, Jonathan, was there not?
There's one other talking point before we hit Sutton Death. Oh, I can't remember what the other talking point was.
Oh my God, look at the viewers. The viewers will have something.
They'll have something for us. Hey, they'll have something for us.
Declan comes in. He says, Hart, out. He is the weakest link in this team. I'd rather have the Darvel keeper.
Oh. Well, it's a bit bold statement to be coming out with, Declan. I mean, I do think Hart's on an expiry date. That expiry date comes at the end of the season for me. Whether Seacrest will be the answer to the question, I'm not entirely sure. It's another area I think Celtic could do with another body in, if I'm being completely honest, because I just don't know how long Joe has left. I think there's been signs this season that it might be time for him to call it a day at the end of the season. And he's been a great stopover for us, by the way. I think he's been excellent since he's came in terms of what he brings more off the pitch and, on it in terms of his influence. He's had some moments where he's made some pretty big saves for us as well. So I wouldn't go as far as saying
as well. Very recently. I think Declan's been a wee bit harsh. I think he's saying in another comment, he's shite, mate. I don't think he's shite. I think it doesn't need to be as black and white as that, right? Declan, I think there is an argument to have. Is that a position we could improve on and strengthen in the summer with Joe Hart turning 36? Yes. Is it because him turning 36 means he's not good enough? No. But I would say after the first couple of seasons we've had from him, he has served his purpose and probably a bit more because of the influence he's had on his teammates. So by no means would I subscribe to, get him out. Do you think that we could improve in that position?
Champions League, Russell, coming up next year. Would you be confident with Joe Hart between the sticks?
Champions League, do I think he's a Champions League keeper?
I don't think he is. I'll be honest with you, I don't think he is. Not anymore. I think those days are behind him. I don't think he had his best games in the Champions League for us. You look at Champions League and we talk about those big nights, under Strachan, Artur Boruc was instrumental. Under Neil Lennon when we get to the last
you need that, don't you?
instrumental. I know, Joe Hart's nowhere near the level of those two goalkeepers. Perhaps when he was at his peak, he was pushing them a bit more, but certainly not now for me. And I do think when Celtic are going to be playing in the Champions League, particularly with the way that Ange likes to play, remember, he's not as conservative a manager as perhaps, a Strachan or a Lenny would be against certain opposition. I think Postecoglou likes to have a go. It does mean we're more susceptible at the back to conceding chances, which does mean you're going to need a top quality goalkeeper in there. So I think that's certainly a position we'll need to look at for the Champions League for me. Unless Siegrist improves massively and can prove to be the answer, I don't think so. I
He would have had more of a chance by now.
Yeah,
he would have more of a chance by now.
I think he's just seen as the number 2, but I would be surprised if Joe Hart goes in to goals for the next Champions League campaign. I certainly wouldn't be putting my house on him making any big saves and being, getting games named after him like Fraser Foster, or having a big moment like Artur Boric had a few times, because I think that's what you need as well in the Champions League. You need a top goalkeeper at Celtic if we're going to be progressing in those tournaments, and I just don't think Joe Hart has that level of ability in him. Would love it if he could prove me wrong and could still roll back the years and do what he was doing, 5-10 years ago, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument that, like Joe McKinnon, I think he's doing fine. I agree with Joe on that. I think he's doing fine. I don't think he's been brilliant. I agree with Callum here. Give Joe Hart a coaching role. Yeah, I would want him around the club, and maybe.
Oh, I think so.
I wonder if he would have more ambition those to keep playing, because it is, that's what happens. They've got to weigh that up. If there was an opportunity to keep him though on the coaching side of things, yeah, Callum, I like that. I'm all for that. But yeah, I think that'll be a position that come the summer window, I think will be brought under the spotlight a lot more. But you've definitely given us food for thought there, Declan. If I don't quite agree that he's shite, apologies.
You don't want the Darvel keeper in then? No, you're not quite going that
far. By the way. But do you know the
Shocking.
weirdest thing about
Shocking.
that cup?
Shocking, as Martin O'Neill would say.
Oh,
shocking.
That cup upset though, right? I see when I was watching it, that was the weirdest feeling. I didn't feel like there was a shock occurring. I was like, the better team's winning the game. They were better.
As you know, one of my good friends is an Aberdeen fan, and he could see it coming from the moment they went 1-0 down. They were, they just looked devoid of ideas. I mean, he was like, "There's not even much you can say to that. I could see this happening." They were just, but you can't take anything away from Darvel. It's a fucking unbelievable effort from them to be getting a result like that. And you don't want to make it too much about Aberdeen and their failings in the game when Darvel put so much into it and really approached it very well. So. For me, I was like, wow, it's probably the biggest Scottish Cup upset I've seen anyway, and certainly not one I expected
on paper
to have happened. Yeah,
on paper. But in terms of watching it, I don't know. I just thought they're popping the ball about really nice. They just look a better team to me. They're just
Tell you what, Russell, I think they could beat Falkirk as well. They've got Falkirk in the next round, back on their home pitch. So, I wouldn't be overly surprised if they'd done Falkirk there as well.
It'd be even worse for Aberdeen if Falkirk win like 7-0 or something. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, could you imagine?
Where does Big Handsome Jim go for there?
The exit door. It's the only way for him to go.
Declan's saying it's an iconic status. We've had absolute legends. It's nothing personal. For fuck's sake, boys, clam down. Perfectly calm, mate. And clam.
Perfectly calm.
Perfectly clam. You don't need to. It's all good, Declan. We've read the comment. We have different opinions on it. Don't think anyone thought it was personal. Right. It is that time when it does get personal, though, Jonathan.
This time it's personal.
The main man, Phil McGinley, joins us. Phil, what's happening?
Here we go.
Yes, boys. The
Evening,
smell
Phil.
of fierce competition is in the air because Sutton Death.
The only thing I'm smelling is fear, Phil. I can smell it.
Fear?
I can smell the fear coming over from Dunfermline.
No, I'm not worried, mate.
This could be the day, Russell. This could be the day we finally get our nose in front in this competition.
Why?
So this will be week 15 and you're going to be bragging about going ahead for the first time in 15
Well,
weeks.
it's a marathon, Russell. It's a marathon. You've got to remember Celtic were behind for a long part of last season and then they ended up running away with it. Something similar could be about to happen on this, I think.
Could be, yeah, because it is currently tied at 7 apiece. No Sutton Death. It has been an epic game up until now, but yes, it is round 15 coming up, and I am excited about this one. I expect it to be a good one. It's a good question. I think there's a lot of good answers in it, a lot of obvious ones, but some ones where you'll go, fuck, never saw that one coming. So it's going to be an exciting one tonight, boys. So I see Russell's changed the background already. Good stuff. All I need to do is just I'll get the music queued up, get that tension built, boys.
Come on.
Got my comments off as well, just so you know they are off. Yeah, would hate for any accusations.
Oh
this.
yes, of course. Yeah, okay, so yeah, we'll be doing a Sutton Death. For anyone that's new to the channel and doesn't know what this part is, it is a penalty shootout themed game between the Brothers Boyce.
Oh yes.
They have got 5 shots each against me. I am the goalkeeper and the quizmaster. I have got a question with multiple answers here. They get obviously a right answer, they score, and of course a wrong answer you don't miss. They've got a maximum tonight of 10 guesses. Right, of course, in traditional penalty shootout, after 5 rounds of it, we'll see who the winner is. It will go to 10 maximum. Yeah, I usually do a 3-hour show on a Friday night. I'm not keeping on 3 hours on a Monday or Tuesday night. Sorry,
Tuesday. No,
yeah.
I've got work tomorrow, Phil. You're not getting me for 3 hours.
No, we're not doing that. So yeah, now again, I know the answer, but after 7 weeks, with Jonathan, you won the point last week. What's the second song? First place. I knew that was going to be the answer. It's all part of the process. And tonight's question, guys, has some really nice potential answers. So, tonight's one, the date range. It's quite a big date range on this one, but you'll understand why in a second. It's the 92-93 season onwards. Why is that season significant? It's the year the English Premier League started, when it went from becoming the first division to the Premier League. And tonight's question is, can you name any player who has joined Celtic and has either a Premier League, an FA Cup, or an English League Cup winners' medal to their name from 1983 to current day? Now, two things. While you're thinking about it, a couple of things I want to just clarify. So I said it's supposed to be they must have the medal when they joined Celtic. So somebody like Virgil van Dijk wouldn't count because he got it after he left Celtic. In regards to a league winner's medal, you've got to have played 5 games in this season. As I say, when I put the answers together, some of them were like, I can't believe he got a medal. Apparently they did. So that's the criteria for a player to get a Premier League winner's medal. You must have played 5 games this season. And in regards to the FA Cup and the League Cup, winning teams get 40 medals to distribute between their squad. Also winning 11 at the start, all the substitutes and unused, and any players who have participated elsewhere in the tournament could have it. So if you don't have a vivid idea of seeing somebody playing in an FA Cup final, it might be worth guessing. It might have got a medal along the way on route to winning it. So there's a few caveats there, but 22 answers, guys. Jonathan, whenever you are ready, step up and take the first kick.
So it's all of these have to be won before they join Celtic.
Before they join Celtic.
Yeah, before they join. No problem. I'll go for a favourite on the bus. I'm going to go Chris Sutton.
See if one of you didn't say Chris Sutton, I would be so disappointed in you.
I was not letting him say Chris Sutton. Put it that way. I know the first thing he wrote down.
So yeah, Chris Sutton, of course, has got the Premier League.
Okay, Joe Hart.
Yeah, Joe Hart. He's got Premier League and FA Cup winners.
I shall go for Polo Fury.
Polo Fury.
I'm already struggling with that. Yeah, I can't think.
Or are you bluffing or so just to try and live? Is this a bluff? Or is this moving into a game of poker now?
Yeah, apparently someone just messaged me by the way on Facebook saying if you can turn the music down a wee bit, so it's been alive. It's got a Facebook notification there. Right, okay, I've got Dion Dublin.
Dion Dublin is correct. He did just enough in 92-93 to get one. Just enough.
Well done, Russell. Well done. I'm going to put the ball back in your court. I'm going to say Freddie Bloomberg.
Yeah, he's got a lot. He's got Premier League and FA Cup winners' medals.
Yes, Roy Keane.
Of
Oh,
course.
that was
yes.
good. Oh, that
Yeah,
was
again,
good.
probably the most out of all of the people.
Yeah, I don't know how we missed Roy Keane. Hey, right. I have to have a guess. I think I'm not really sure of many other ones I can think of off the top of my head. Don't know. I wonder if he was on a cup. I'm not sure. I'm going to say Robbie Keane.
Robbie Keane sounds like a bit of a Hail Mary here, but you are right because he
won the
did
League
win the League Cup. Yes, he
That
did.
Keane name came in handy there, Russell. Thank you for the assist.
Robbie
Straight back
Keane.
to you though. Ramp that pressure back up because James McCarthy won the FA Cup with Wigan.
Oh, he did. Very well done.
He did indeed. Yes. So we're on to the fifth kick now. Pressure's on.
How about this is a good one. Stefan Honcho.
It's a very good one because yes, FA Cups and League Cups to his name. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, Russell.
Juranovic.
Oh yes. Premier League and a League Cup winners medal to his name. Yes. Okay, so now we are into Sutton Death, so there'll be a maximum of another 5 guesses if we get that far. If it does go that far, I have got a tiebreaker question.
That you've had since week 1.
I'll have to keep the same tiebreaker question.
Still be waiting to use.
Yeah. It's still sitting there.
Neil Lennon.
Of course, Neil Lennon. Yeah, he has indeed. He's got 2 League Cup winners medals.
I don't know how that took us so long, to be honest, to get Neil Lennon.
Surprised with that one. Surprised. Getting down to some nitty gritty answers now.
I'm going to say one that is a bit of a guess.
Mm-hmm.
Dimitri Karin.
That's a hell of a guess, Russell, because it's correct.
Yes!
Yeah.
Wow.
Chelsea.
That is correct.
That is incredible.
That was on the level when Jonathan guessed Baku for the European.
I would never have got that one, to be fair to you. Fair play. I'm going to have a guess as well. I'm going to guess Steve Guppy.
Steve Guppy is indeed correct. He has got a League Cup winners medal. Yes, he does. They're doing well, boys. Doing very well here.
I've done well here.
This isn't a guess. This is a real guess. But you said the 92-93 season.
Yeah, that's when it became the Premier League. So any player that's joined Celtic from then onwards that would have had it has to be a Premier League winners medal, League Cup winners medal, or an FA Cup. If it's the old first division, it's no counting.
Okay. Tommy Johnson.
It's correct, yes.
Yes!
Oh, wow. League Cup with Aston Villa.
Yes.
In 1996 against Leeds. Yes. So the score is currently 7 apiece, just like it is on the actual scoreboard as well. Oh my.
I'm into total guessing territory here, to be honest. I've got a couple of ideas as to who I could guess, but I've got no confidence in any of them. I'm going to say, just because I just want to flip this back on him and not give it too much thinking time, I'm going to say John Hartson.
John Hartson is one you would think, but he is incorrect in this one. When Arsenal did win some trophies in the early 90s, he was away in town at that stage. So John Hartson is a miss. Gives Russell a chance to win it.
Carlton Cole. Surely won something.
Oh, of course he will have.
That is a hell of a shout. And when I was saying at the start, when I was looking through some of the answers, a few took me by surprise. Carlton Cole in 2006 did just enough to get a Premier League winners medal with Chelsea. Just enough. I think he only played like 9 games that season, but that's enough to get a winners medal by English Premier League criteria.
Oh, wow.
But he did get a 2006 winners medal. Now, guys, it's one of the ones that you didn't get.
Yeah, there's going to be an obvious one.
there is a very obvious one.
Alan Thompson, did he win the...
Alan Thompson, that was the other one I was going to say. Between
Alan
him and
Thompson
Watson.
did not. Alan Thompson's got two
that's not
runners
so
up
bad.
medals from
That's not
finals.
so bad.
He got to
Aston
runners
Villa
up
and
with Bolton, didn't he? Bolton, I remember
Aston
that.
Villa.
He hit the bar.
Okay, you said Dimitri Carey. Is there any other Chelsea players from 1997 that joined Celtic?
Not Tom Boyd. Craig Burley.
Craig Burley.
Burley.
Didn't play in the final, but he got a winners medal for his contributions earlier in the tournament.
Yep.
Here's probably the most obvious one. Ian Wright. He's the only one that's got the full collection.
Oh, Ian Wright.
Oh,
Premier League, FA Cup, and
yeah.
League Cup. Even Roy Keane doesn't have the League Cup, so that's fun. Russell, you've said about your affinity with Tottenham. 1999 League Cup final. Any centre backs you think that might have turned up at Celtic?
Centre back. Ramon Vega.
Ramon Vega, 1999 League Cup final.
Good.
2004 English League Cup final. Juninho, Middlesbrough.
Oh!
Trophy Middlesbrough have won in their history. He was part of that team. Here's a surprise one. You did just enough in Arsenal's invincible season and got an FA Cup winners medal in 2005. Jeremy Ali Adier.
Yeah, he was in my head.
I
He was in
forgot
my
we
head
had
right at the
him.
start.
I forgot we had him.
2011 FA Cup final, Manchester City. Dedrick Boyata, an unused substitute that day.
Oh, wow. We never got that.
And this one is one that you would have done really well to get. A very well-known player. But turns out Scott Sinclair got a 2007 and 2009 medal in Chelsea for, again, earlier contributions in the tournament, but he didn't get anywhere near the finals. Yeah,
But he was a viable guess. He was a viable
guess, yeah. I think he was probably the only one out of them I think I would have got out who was left. So to be fair, beaten by the better man this evening. I'll be back.
I'll take that. Get it right, Ringy.
I expected a high-scoring game, and it certainly was. It was 8-7 on tonight's game, and that makes the scoreline 8-7 overall for the competition. Yeah, so it's mirroring it. There you are.
That was good.
Yeah. That was a good question, though. I enjoyed that question.
We enjoyed
I had a feeling
that.
that'd be a good one. I had a feeling that would be an enjoyable one.
Yeah, your imagination's wild to these questions, man. But I enjoyed that. That was good. What was the final score? 8-7.
8-7.
Same as the score.
It's 8-7 on the actual overall scoreboard as well. So
it's a high-scoring game.
It was.
And that wasn't
It
with
was
a missing the first five. That was all hits in the first five as well.
It was indeed, aye.
Because you could still go to Sutton Death without you actually getting them all right. Do you know what I mean? So that was good. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
7 and 8 each. I'm happy with that. I think we've got 50.
We got 50 out of 22. Didn't do too badly there.
I would have taken that. But aye, back in front, where I belong.
Particularly at the start, because I was struggling to think of two to begin with. So when you start
Yeah,
hearing
I
other people
know.
go with ones, makes you start thinking, eh?
Well, I know my second guess was Dublin, and I was like, and it's only because he was a reserve at Man United. I've got him down. I went, I'm really struggling here.
There was a couple of ones I didn't know if you would have said them where they would have been wrong because they got the medal after they joined Celtic. Turns out Patrick Roberts got a League Cup winners medal in 2016. He was on loan with us, but he played for Man City in the earlier rounds in the League Cup. And Charlie Musonda got a 2018 FA Cup winners medal, but he was with us on loan for the second half of the season. But he played an FA Cup game before he joined us, and Chelsea gave him a medal as part of his.
Well, that'd have been a bit of a stinker if you'd said him. That'd have been a bit
I
unfortunate.
actually heard the question, so you better tell them what the question was.
The question was from the 92-93 season onwards, because that's the year the Premier League season was formed. It was any player that's joined Celtic that had a winners medal, a Premier League one, an FA Cup winners medal, or a League Cup winners medal. But if you didn't hear the question, then by all means, when the show's finished, just go back and watch again. You can hear it all again. Yeah, you'll hear it all again. Yeah, but there you go. Exciting game, 8-7 in the end, and Russell extends his lead to 8-7.
That was good. Well, thank you for that. That rounds up the Monday Club on a Tuesday. As always, it's been a pleasure having you on, Jonathan. Phil, thanks as ever for the Sutton Death question. Great fun. Great fun. I'm back where I belong. Remember, guys, hit that like button if you've not already. Subscribe. All that carry on. If you want to become a member, by all means, you can do so as well. We will be back. When are we next back?
Breakfast bar tomorrow.
No!
Oh, dear.
What am I going to talk about?
That's karma for you.
If we get in the loads, will give us plenty of patter tomorrow. I'll just leave it to them. I think the music's been coming through for the viewers a lot louder than it was at our end. I could hear you fine, Phil, but there's loads.
Yeah, I could hear you fine as well.
It was down at like 11. That was the volume.
Look, that music was blasting. The fucking music was too loud. That's weird, because it seemed okay at my end.
Every week they're going it down at like 11
They're
or
just
12.
they're just taking themselves word for it that you've won, Russell. Nobody had a fucking thing. Read a replay.
Yeah.
No wonder I got so many questions right. I didn't actually hear the question. Good night.
I mean, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.